Are you looking for a way to scale your short-term rental business and buy more properties? Well, co-hosting might be the right fit for you. Welcome to the Co-Host Coach podcast with Joe Roney. This episode of the Co-Host Coach is brought to you by Savvy STR Agents. If you're looking to buy a short-term rental, then contact the STR Savvy Agent team at savvy.realty.
Welcome to another episode of the Co-Host Coach. I am Joe Roney, and I am excited that you are here today because we are coming into the end of the year, which means we are really starting our planning for 2025 in revenue and calendars. And honestly, it should already be done by now, but here we are the first week of November. If you have not gone through and planned your calendar and your revenue for the 2025 calendar year, you are definitely a little bit behind the eight ball, and we're going to talk a little bit about what that looks like today. So, obviously, Christmas Day, a lot of people will say that really opens up and starts the booking season for 2025. And I don't disagree. However, I will tell you, I already have multiple weeks booked for 2025 on a few of the properties, and we've already gone through ahead of time and made sure that our calendars are set, and we have about a 20% price premium than what our normal price would be for next year. So if we do get a far out booking, we're getting it at a really great price. So here we are, like I said, early November. We're getting ready for the peak booking season if your property is in a summer vacation market, which I know the majority of you are. Some of you probably have properties that are in winter markets, and you are right in the thick of things, with your bookings already, in place and working on taking care of those guests. So, for the summer booking markets, this is really what we're talking about today as far as revenue management and calendar management and how you handle all of that. So, and it really does go and coincide with for the winter markets as well. It's just different times of year that you're doing these things. So, right now, when it comes to calendar management is really understanding what your market is, what your booking lead times are, and then, what length of stay that you're usually seeing. It used to be really easy in a beach market to say, oh, I'm just going to do a Saturday only bookings and we're just going to book Saturday to Saturday. I'll be honest, there's not a lot that are still doing that. There are still a lot. There are still a lot of property managers that are doing that, and there are still some smaller boutique managers, co-hosts, and individual owners that are doing that. And there are some properties that it still works really well for. We do have one property we manage that is a beachfront or golf front home that from mid-May through mid-August, we do a 7-night only Saturday to Saturday. But beyond that, we open it up to be regular. That being said, every other one of our properties have anywhere from a 2-night, 3-night, 4-night, or 5-night stay minimum. Depending on the week and depending on, where the property is. So, as you're thinking about 2025 and setting up your calendar, you really want to look at your peak weeks, looking at your holidays, making sure that all of your, people are not checking in or checking out on, let's just say Christmas Day, or on the 4th of July or on, certain holidays. You want to make sure you have extra minimum set up for those holidays. But then, we know, like in my market, in the beach market, March is gangbusters, right? And we're premium pricing, and we're going to have a higher minimum night stay in March. But mid-April, aside from Easter week, is a little bit slower in the beach market. So, so it's really important for you as a co-host to make sure that you completely understand your market and what type of calendar management you need to have, and it needs to be in place today. So if you're listening to this and you have not gotten your 2025 100% set, stop what you're doing and do this today. This is really, really important. The second part of this is revenue management, because, it's important to have your calendar set up correctly, but it's way more important, and probably the most important thing that you do as a co-host for managing other people's properties is going to be revenue management. It is how you're going to make the biggest impact in your owner's revenue that you're working with, as well as the revenue for your company. So, there have been, this past year, there's been a big, big push on revenue managers. And I'm actually going to probably have one of the top revenue managers on this show here in the next month or so. We really, really need to execute and hit the revenue management piece perfectly. And that means knowing your seasons, knowing your, calendar ins and outs, knowing your booking trends, not just for summer. Everybody's going to book in the summer months. How are you going to book in those shoulder seasons? How are you going to book in those, slower seasons and really make an impact? So, there have been some revenue managers that have come on board and created businesses in the past year. And I'm going to tell you, as a co-host, it's something that we're even talking to and considering bringing on a revenue manager because, when you're managing 2 or 3 properties, it's really easy to spend, a little bit of time each day, extra time each week to really plan out and look at your calendars and look at your revenue management piece. But when you start to get to 10, 12, 15, or maybe even 20 properties, every property is going to have a different revenue management piece to it. Whether it be a 2-2 that's 3 blocks from the beach, or the 5-5 that's on the beach, or if you're in a mountain market or wherever you're at, the revenue management is going to change drastically based on where your property is, and you need to be able to understand that. So it might be a good idea for you to talk to one of these revenue managers and see what they charge and build that into your co-hosting fee. So as you're growing more co-hosting clients, you know that XYZ revenue management company is going to charge you $250 per month per listing. Build that into your fee. It doesn't always have to be just a standard 20% that some people say. There is no standard when it comes to what you're charging and what you're worth. If you're going to bring a significant value to a client, and that means it's going to be an extra fee or whatever it may be to handle some of those costs, then so be it. Go in there and get what you're worth on that. But the biggest piece that I'm talking about, though, really in revenue management, is knowing what your pricing looks like by the week, by the weekend, by the month, everything. I know in my market, January and February are, it's kind of a crapshoot. We're at the beach. There's not a lot of people going to the beach, and we're going to have to be priced accordingly. A house that we have listed at $1,500 or $2,000 a night during the summer months, we may be down to $350 a night during January and February in order to get that booked. And that's okay. You just have to know that ahead of time. I see it a lot of times. So we stayed at a property this year in Colorado on a 7-night stay with friends, and it was a fantastic property. It was a little bit outdated, but it was right in the right area that we wanted. It had 6 bedrooms. And when I looked up her calendar for this particular property, it was the same $650 a night year round. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, holiday, it didn't matter. That was their pricing, and that was their pricing year round. What this is doing is for that particular owner, and she self-managed, is leaving a lot of money on the table. So if you're a co-host and you're managing properties for owners and you don't understand the revenue management piece, you definitely should consider hiring somebody out for that and bringing somebody in. And maybe as you're building your business, you're building a team and you have a team member that's their specialty and they're really good at that. But it is definitely a very, very important piece in this business because it's how you're going to make the biggest impact to take a property from doing $80,000 a year to 90, 95, or even 100. All of that doesn't even have to do with the design. A lot of it is understanding how your revenue management works and when you're going to change the calendars. One of the things that people have started to do recently, and it's worked for me as well, is when you get to within 10 days, drop to a 1-night minimum. And, during this time of year, because we're in the off season, October through February, where I'm at is the off season. And it's really important. We get a lot of last minute bookings. I'd probably say our lead time is 14 to 17 days on average. And I get a lot of bookings the week leading up. And, we have to understand that. So, we drop those nights to a 1-night minimum about 10 days out. And that's really helped. It's really impacted our last minute bookings for when we don't have something because it's jumping us up in the search rankings because we're doing something that others are not. We have 13 seasons set up in price labs on our pricing tool on each one of our houses at the beach, because the March season is very different from the April season, and the April season is very different than Easter week. And, obviously there's, a lot of different things throughout the year. So we're really, planning out our Price Labs calendar for an entire year to be able to understand what the seasons are and when those kick in. And we're adjusting our base rates based on that. And that type of revenue management is how we're able to see some of the properties that we've been managing go from, $170,000 a year to 200 plus. Like I said, the design and the listing optimization and all that stuff plays a part, and pricing is your number one way to do listing optimization. So, we make pricing adjustments every single day on almost every single property. And if you're not using a dynamic pricing tool like Wheelhouse, Price Labs, whatever it is, you definitely should, but it is not a set it, forget it kind of tool. I think we all know that. You can't just put a base price in there and let Price Labs do the work for you and hope for the best. The CEO of Price Labs even has said it's a great tool, but you have to use it to be able to make it work for you, and you have to be in there, on a daily basis making adjustments. And like I said, those start with your seasons. They start with your, daily changes, whether you're doing, I'm not saying change your base price every day, but you might be doing some strike through pricing. You might be doing some different discounts. You might be doing some different premiums. Like I said, I have pricing right now in my summer months at a premium at about, some properties 10%, some 20% higher than what the base price is. And that's because we know we're not going to get that many bookings for next year. I don't want to be booked for the entire summer. If your properties are booked all up for next year, you're priced too low. You're leaving a lot of money on the table if you're doing that. I don't want my properties completely booked, 6 months out or even a year out, because I'm leaving way too much money on the table if I'm doing that for my owners, and my job is to maximize their revenue so they can make more money. So, these pricing tools are phenomenal, and they are really, really easy to use, but they also can be very complex in making sure you understand. So if you are getting into the co-hosting business and you're new in this business and you don't understand the revenue management piece and don't understand what it takes to be able to really make an impact in that, really consider hiring a revenue manager to help you with that piece. And there are some phenomenal ones out there. You can message me and I can give you a couple referrals on a few that I've talked to and a few people that I work with that work with them that are in the network. So there are some really, really great people out there. So last thing I want to talk about is marketing. So, as we're going into off season, that marketing piece becomes even that more important for you to start planning and marketing for your properties for next year, whether it be doing, targeted Facebook ads, TikToks, Reels, your email marketing campaign. So if you're on a 200-day funnel and they stayed at your property last year in March and you're not sending them any more emails, when it's November or December, we got to reconnect with those guests and make sure we're continuing to send emails to get them to potentially rebook for next year. So in our program, we have a 200-day marketing campaign. So as soon as a guest checks out, we've collected their emails through our property management system and through using StayFi. So we're getting not only the booking person, we're also getting, everybody who stayed at the house emails. I think we've been using StayFi for a little over a year, and we have somewhere around 1,400, 1,500 emails collected over the last year and a half. And we are using those because we want those guests to come back and book with us year after year. So we're sending them specials, we're sending them deals, we're sending them information about the market. And that marketing piece is really, really important for you to continue to grow your business. It's how another way you're going to see your revenue increase year after year after year. And if you're having a conversation with an owner and your property was down on the year, there's a chance they're going to leave you and go to somebody else and hire a different property manager if you're not seeing the results, or if they're not seeing the results that you promised. So, marketing is a huge, huge way, that you can help yourself and the owner see bigger results. So, we do targeted Facebook ads constantly for our properties. We are, we're using our lookalike audience. We're using, the emails and the data of the people that have stayed with us to be able to retarget to those type of guests, so we can get more people booking to our properties. And yes, we're going to get some direct bookings that way. Our ads are not always to our direct booking site. We actually do a lot of ads right to our Airbnb link because people are comfortable with that, platform. So when they see it on there, they're going to be more likely to book it on that than they are on a direct booking website that they might be a little bit skeptical about. So, when we're using our direct booking site, it's definitely more for our guests that are coming back year after year through our email marketing campaign. But when we're doing ads, TikToks, Instagram Reels, any type of that stuff for our properties, we're typically targeting them right to our actual Airbnb or VRBO link. We're seeing better success with that. So, what is your marketing campaign as a co-host? How are you going to get your properties to book more? And understanding your marketing plan is a great, is definitely the way to do it. You may hire a digital marketing agency. I'm in a studio right now that I met Adam McChesney and did his podcast with him. And, he's, had amazing success in his digital marketing agency and helping others build digital marketing agencies. Phenomenal businesses out there that can help you do this marketing and do this advertising. There is an expense and you have to understand that. So, again, we talked about this on an earlier podcast. Not 100% of your money that you make in co-hosting is profit, right? I mean, nobody's getting 100% profit margin. You do need to spend advertising dollars in order to get your properties to be at the top of the list and to perform at the highest level. So, something to think about as you're going through this process. How do you market your properties? How are you doing revenue management on your properties? And how are you doing calendar management? So we're, the very end of the year, getting ready for 2025. What are you doing to make an impact in 2025? And the last thing I'm going to leave you with is, as you're planning your 2025, don't just look at your calendar and say, okay, this is, we did $100,000 and we're going to do $110,000, or we're going to do $120,000, whatever it may be. Look at each month, break down each month and say, okay, in January, I only did $2,500. How am I going to have a goal to get to $3,000 or $3,200? And if July you did $15,000, how can you get that a 10% increase to 16.5 or 17? So when you're planning out your revenue management, you're not just, looking at the calendar. If you look at your calendar for the whole month and it's flat to what you actually did last year, you're not going to be able to see an increase. So you can't just put in some numbers and hope for the best and do that. You have to really understand your seasons and understand what your actual monthly goals are. So really, really important for you guys to think about this. It's a biggest thing that we have been working on this year is to really, up our game and our revenue management for our owners. And we're seeing really, really good increases. So if you want to find out more information on that, obviously visit any of my links below, shoot me a message. We can talk about it a little bit more offline. But those are the big three things that we were here to talk about this week. And I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.